Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
We are in the midst of unprecedented and unpredictable times right now as business owners and executive leaders, but there are professional organizations with a long history of advocacy and staying power that are here to support us. And that's why I've invited some of the Arizona's finest on today's segment to provide you with resources, suggestions, and hope. Welcome to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studio inside Max 6 Conscious Workspace in Tempe, Arizona, where we help build businesses and connect you with the right people. I'm your host and Phoenix Business Radio studio owner, Karen Nowicki. Let me introduce you to our guests before we get going today. First, we have Tempe Chamber of Commerce CEO Ann Gill. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you, Karen. Glad to be here today.
I am too. And normally you're just a building away, but I know that you are Skyping in from your home office today. Thanks for being here. We also have with us Better Business Bureau serving the Pacific Southwest, Director of Innovation and Entrepreneur Programs, Kimberly Rowland. Welcome back, Kimberly.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. And also with us today is Local First Arizona Executive Director Thomas Barr. Hi, Thomas.
Hey, how are you?
I am hanging in there. You know, it's weird, right?
It is weird.
I'm here at the Max 6 Conscious Workspace, which normally is buzzing and very busy with a parking lot full and meetings going on and a lot of small to medium-sized businesses functioning out of here. And today, while I'm in my studio, there maybe are 2 or 3 people here. Most, of course, are working from home like you folks. So I'd love to hear from each of you. Who are you? What is your organization for our listeners who might be joining us for the first time? And then let's really get in today's meat of conversation around the resources and the suggestions and really the hope that you can offer our business community. Thomas, do you want to start off for us? Just tell us a little bit about Local First and yourself.
So Local First Arizona has been around and existing since 2003. We were started by our founder, Kimber Lanning. She is a small business owner who at the time recognized that there was just a lot of inequities happening in the state between the opportunity for small businesses to be competitive and have opportunities versus a lot of the non-local companies. But she also realized at the same time that was happening, there's just a lot of young people that grew up here that couldn't wait to leave. You know, the culture in our town and in the state 15, 20 years ago was incredibly different than it is now. We had much less pride in Arizona, and there was talk of how great other places were. And so the organization was founded to try and tackle those two things at one time. And so we started as a buy local coalition. We now represent over 3,000 Arizona locally owned businesses across the state. And we work to raise awareness about how important they are and however so important they are right now in these times, now that they're faced with so many challenges. I think everybody realizes that. And trying to get more people talking about that, more people thinking about how can I do my part to play a part in Arizona's future by supporting the businesses in my hometown. So all of the work that we do at Local First is surrounded behind building a better state. And we believe the center of that is establishing more opportunities for local ownership and equity to build a prosperous place.
Great introduction. Thank you, Thomas. Ann, how about you? Tell us a little about Tempe Chamber.
Sure. The Tempe Chamber has been around since 1908, actually. So even before Arizona became a state, and focusing on keeping Tempe a vibrant community that it is. Serving as the voice of business, a catalyst for economic growth, and a champion for a strong community. So, we've been through some of these challenging times before, and we'll continue to be there to support our community. I've been happy to serve as a CEO for the past 3 years. I've been in the industry for more than 8 years, and also a previous small business owner. And we're just always working on behalf of our members. We represent more than 650 businesses here in the Tempe area, more than 70,000 employees. And a lot of the work that we do is advocating to make sure our community remains a strong and great place to do business. that we can keep our economy growing, but also making sure that our community is strong. When the business community is strong, then the overall community is strong as well. So they both go hand in hand. And we want to make sure that we're connecting our businesses with our community nonprofits, with our school districts. So a lot of our programs focus on workforce development, as well as connecting our businesses to each other so that they can grow their business, providing them resources and information, education, connections, and programs for the entire community. So happy to be here today and look forward to the rest of the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you, Anne. Kimberly, Better Business Bureau, tell us a little bit about you. I know we've got some of us have an idea of what the BBB is, but you've taught me the last 3 years that it's a whole lot more.
Yes. Thank you again so much for having me, Karen. It's great to be back with you and Thomas and Anne today. So my name's Kimberly Rowland. I'm the Director of Innovation and Entrepreneur Programs at Better Business Bureau, serving the Pacific Southwest. We've been serving Greater Arizona for over 80 years, and going on 2 years ago now, we merged with the San Diego Better Business Bureau. So we service Greater Arizona and Southern California. We are the largest trade association in Arizona with over 12,000 businesses and close to 20,000 business members in the Pacific Southwest. And really, there is a lot we've talked about over the years that people think they know about BBB, and some of that is true, and some of that is a myth, right? Or is an evolving and changing perception of what Better Business Bureau is, who we are, and what we do. But we are a nonprofit organization, and we have two major stakeholders: consumers, of course, who are always actively trying to educate, inform, and assist, as well as the greater business community. So we are a place for trustworthy businesses. And really what we're working on in this time is just continuing to build trust during these trying times for business owners and consumers. So I'm happy to talk about all of the above in the next hour.
Wonderful. One of the things that I love so much about each of your organizations is that you're a melting pot and not exclusive, right? I've been to local first events, and Kimberly and Ann have been there, and vice versa. And that's what's so great about, I think, one of the wonderful things about Arizona, as Thomas spoke about, as we're trying to find our way as to who we are as a state, who we are as an Arizona business community. I think that we are a collective group of people who are looking to help. We're very conscious in our business practices, and we're always looking to support one another. Most folks would want to just have a conversation with each of you separately. I say, let's have this conversation and find out, one, how we can learn from each other, how we can piggyback off of what each of you are doing, and hopefully get more businesses interested in becoming active members and advocates along with you and your group. So, Ann, I know you need to bug off for another meeting here shortly. So if you wouldn't mind kind of kicking off the conversation for us, tell us a little bit about, first of all, what you're hearing from business owners within the Tempe community. What is it that they're most concerned about? And then we'll talk a little bit about what it is that your organization is doing to help them. What's the fear out there? What are people, freaking out about?
Well, we did a survey of our members in partnership with our East Valley Chamber of Commerce Alliance. So it went out to more than 5,000 businesses. And within 72 hours, we had more than nearly 500 responses, as well as 1,000 plus additional comments from those that filled out the survey. And obviously, there are several themes that came across as being identified as the most important. And the first one on the list is that immediate need for access to cash, just to keep their businesses afloat and to help cover payroll expenses. Employers are also concerned with the welfare of their employees, and they're looking for clarity on how to accommodate some of these new sick leave, FMLA, and payroll tax credits. So we're always trying to give them the resources they need to help them understand that. And then also access to medical and sanitizing supplies is critical, and especially for our hospitals. And we're hearing that they're having challenges with that. Businesses are just asking for accurate and consistent information about COVID-19, and so that they can provide clarity to their businesses, what are essential service protocols, keeping employees and customers safe. So really committed to providing those resources and helping to answer those questions. We do have a resource page on our website, as well as several resource groups on Facebook. And we are updating our resource page on our website almost several times a day. So we always encourage people to come back. And we're kind of sifting through that information and making sure that it's the most easy to understand from reliable sources, so that we can become that one-stop shop for Tempe businesses. We're doing, weekly e-newsletter updates, as well as video updates for our members. And our entire team is breaking down our membership list, and we're calling all of our members just to touch base to find out how they're doing, what challenges they're facing. For instance, yesterday, one of the team spoke to some folks at First Transit, and they said, we're having a hard time finding restrooms for our drivers in Tempe, Mesa, and Phoenix. So immediately able to get on the phone with the transportation director in Tempe. How can we help these individuals so that they can continue to provide transportation for the folks that need that, and then also connected with my partners in Mesa and Phoenix, and within a couple hours had that issue resolved for them. So we were able to solve that problem. So just as soon as we know what's happening, if we can provide that solution, I'm working on that every day.
It's fascinating that you said that. I didn't even think about restrooms for drivers, right? I know I had seen, right? I saw somebody put something out on, I think it was LinkedIn, that the large trucks can't go through drive-through, right? And yet you can't go, at least before this, you couldn't walk through a drive-through. So people were suggesting, hey, if you see a truck driver in a parking lot of a fast food restaurant, offer to drive through and grab them a meal, those sorts of things that we've never even thought of before, that we're being faced to take care of and answer. So given the resources that you have, I know you've got the resource page that we can go to, and we are appreciative of you guys updating it as frequently as you are. What can you share with us a little bit about what you're seeing happening, maybe some of the laws that are supportive or that we're trying to push through? What can you share with us as far as the resources and support, Anne?
Sure. So some of the things that I'm working on the local level for and with the city, we've already had the temporary sign restrictions waived so that businesses can have window signs and A-frame signs, especially if we're only doing takeout or pickup options for restaurants and retail. Looking at limited meter parking downtown, so that will allow those customers to actually go in and pick up the information or the takeout that they're looking to pick up without having to pay for parking, just making it as easy as possible. Working with the city on some possible rent relief opportunities, as well as a gift card platform with one of our Tempe businesses here. So we should have some announcements on that coming here probably next week. And then also in the process of working on an asset assistance program with the city to provide microloans and for businesses that are in Tempe, and just trying to get that something similar to what we've done with streetcar asset assistance program in the past, as well as light rail construction to help those that have been impacted economically. So those are some of the things that we're working on at the city level. Obviously, always advocating on a state and federal level, and so been on the phone with state and federal officials pretty much every day, and just getting updates on what's coming down from some of these stimulus packages, and in touch with the U.S. Chamber so that we can get all of the information in manageable pieces out to our businesses so they can understand, what is it that lenders are looking for with some of these special loans, if they're eligible, and how much can they borrow, and what does that look like? So trying to make it as easy as possible for our businesses to get some of the cash that they need.
Wow. So much. Yeah. And are you sleeping at all?
Every now and then. Try.
Yeah. Good. Glad to hear. We got, obviously, everything is so much about self-care right now with the virus. We have to make sure that inflammation is down and we're well rested and well fed. So I certainly encourage everybody to take good care of themselves as well. And it's tough when we're responsible for so many people. So thank you for what you're doing, Anne. Do either you, Kimberly, or Thomas have any questions or anything to add on to what Anne has shared as far as, what are you hearing or seeing as some of the major concerns? Anything different? And then any questions for Anne before we let her scoot?
No, I really commend what you're doing, and I think that's brilliant. Some of these just really practical actions that you're taking to help the businesses continue to serve and earn some income is wonderful, especially with the relief on the parking meters, things like that people really just don't think of. It can really be very beneficial for the businesses right now. So thank you for working so hard around the clock.
Happy to do it. I enjoy it.
One of the calls that I was on yesterday, we were talking about the small business loans, and I have not applied for one yet, but I've heard from a couple of people that they were really struggling to get through. And can any of you speak to encouragement and or maybe a best way to work their way through those small business loans that we see are available to us?
So there's different ways to go about that. There's some that you have to apply through the SBA. So like the emergency disaster loans, that does go through the SBA. But if you're going to apply for the new one that came out in the Paycheck Protection Loan Program, that actually will go through your traditional lenders. And so they're going to have more announcements on expanding those lenders beyond those that are already SBA approved. And so that list should be coming hopefully early next week, just since this just got signed by the president today. So they're trying to spread it out where not everything is going through the SBA. I know folks are having some troubles with that. We did a webinar last week just before they were announced so that people could kind of get ready for it, for those emergency disaster loans. So yeah, it can be a little challenging looking at all the different options that are out there and identifying what's the right one for your business and moving forward with that.
Yeah. And if we're not sure what's the best for us, can we email any of your organizations? And do you recommend that we just touch base via email? And more importantly, I think get on some of the webinars that are being offered. I know each of you are doing that. This is not it is a do-it-yourself situation, but if you're feeling frustrated or uncertain, there are certainly resources out there to help you. And of course, I'm hearing each of you say that.
And we partner with SCORE, and they have provide great assistance to people who are looking through these loans. They've got a lot of experience with that. So we do have people that can help walk through that, and happy to help connect them to any of the resources and information that we have.
Great. Thomas or Kimberly, anything else for Ann before we have her share how folks can get in touch with the chamber and then let her scoot on to the next meeting?
Thanks for all you're doing, Ann. Appreciate Tempe's leadership right now. It's super important. We need everybody in on this. So just super, super excited to be linking arms with everybody right now.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree. Just doing everything in collaboration gets us to the finish line and recovery faster. And, that's really what we're working on is how can we keep our businesses going through this time so that when it comes time for recovery, we're coming out strong. We started the year strong economically. So let's build on with that base that we had and get us through this tide and then come out stronger in the end.
Awesome.
Great.
Yeah. And tell us the website for the Tempe Chamber and any other information. I know you guys are, I think, all over social media as well, but what's the best way to get in touch with the chamber?
Well, our website is tempechamber.org. And if you want to send me an email, you can send it to Anne, ANNE, at tempechamber.org. And happy to take those. I might be helping to forward you on to resources and the team to help with that. But if you want to send it to me, I can get it into the right hands.
Generous offer. Thank you, Ann. And good luck with your call next up. And look forward to seeing you in the hallways here at Max 6 Conscious Workspace soon.
Yes. Well, thanks for bringing this all together, and appreciate all the work that Kimberly and Thomas are doing with their organizations as well. And anything we can do together, just let me know. Yeah,
likewise. Stay in touch. If we can put out more podcasts and announcements like this through Business RadioX, I'm happy to accommodate and make sure, as you've said, get us through the other side of this very quickly and hopefully seamlessly.
Thanks again.
All right, Ann. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. So tough act to follow. Kimberly and Thomas, either one of you, let's hear what you're kind of hearing and, of course, what support you're offering to your community.
So I will jump in from the consumer side first up, because I know then we'll probably talk a lot about business. But there are some warnings and scams that we see coming in, unfortunately, and some of them very tragically in the last 48 hours and in the last week. So first and foremost, of course, BBB has always historically been known as an organization that educates and informs consumers and connects them with trusted businesses. So something that very unfortunately, many of you, most of you listening and you guys have seen in the news is we've had an individual in Arizona pass away from taking not a recommended drug by the CDC or a medical professional this past week. So we've also been issuing a lot of warnings to consumers that, of course, there's a lot of businesses out there and products that we are seeing coming through that are making false claims at this time, unfortunately, and very dangerously, that they may be able to prevent or cure COVID-19, which is not the case. Of course, the best resource that we can always direct anyone to is their personal healthcare provider or websites such as the Centers for Disease Control, the World Health Organization, and also the Food and Drug Administration. And we really just can't stress that enough at this time because there is a lot of misinformation that is spread, unfortunately, again, because it can be to the detriment of people's health and even in some cases really tragically results in death. So please always consult with a healthcare provider, medical expert prior to taking anything, let alone purchasing anything as well. Another thing that we're seeing coming through in the last few days is quite a bit of phishing scams. So there's scammers that are offering jobs via email. And as always, you just have to exercise caution and your best judgment. Think about always safeguarding your own personal identifying information before you're giving that out online or via email. And then as well as scams surrounding the loan relief programs. So we've already heard magically, somehow, very crazy, before this bill was even passed and signed into law today, we've had some consumers contacting us that they're getting calls about how they can cash their check and get it. So really, please just exercise caution again and know that any legitimate government agency that calls you, as well as any of your utilities, would never ask for personally identifying information over the phone or over email. Now, if you come across any of these scams, we would love for you to report them to us, bbb.org. Very simple to remember, bbb.org, and it takes you directly to your Arizona page. And we have a website source that we've had for many years called Scam Tracker. We investigate any scams that are reported by consumers, and then we also work with local and federal authorities to track down the folks that are scamming consumers. So this is a really important time because, again, unfortunately, in times of crises, there is so many things to be optimistic about, and there's so many great people who are helping. The majority of folks out there are trying to help others and bring forward positive change and assistance, but there are always a few bad apples that will unfortunately spoil the bunch. So please do report anything that you're finding to us on our scam tracker. And again, we work with the Attorney General's office, the Federal Trade Commission, and we try and address and really catch and find the folks that are scamming consumers. So that's really scary, but that was something I did want to call to attention before we really started diving into everything that we and Local First are doing for business owners at this time.
Yeah, those are great reminders and warnings and resources for us. How has your staff transitioned during this time, Kimberly? How are you all handling everything?
Yeah, it was, we've been moving really quickly, like I'm sure all of you have. So we have over 120 employees across our campuses. So we have a large office in Phoenix, and we also have employees in Prescott, Lake Havasu, in Yuma, in San Diego, and in Newport Beach. And so basically 2 weeks ago today is the day that we received word from our CEO and board of directors that we would implement a work from anywhere policy. And then 48 hours later, that Monday is when everybody was really said, okay, let's work from home. With some of our staff working in California, of course, they have their shelter in place law right now where they're not able to leave home unless it's for groceries or pharmacy. So we've moved pretty quickly. We're very fortunate at BBB because we're pretty nimble, even though we're a large staff. We're very adept at using the Google Suite. And so it's been a very smooth, thankfully, transition for us. So there hasn't been any interruption in services to consumers or business owners at this time. The main interruption is just we don't have the physical presence, which, many people are used to coming to our campus. We help consumers in person and business owners in person. And our physical campus, as well as our co-working space, Ignite Spark by BBB, are closed to the public at this time. We look forward to the day that we can reopen and host all of our meetings and events and lunch and learns in person again. But this is obviously the best thing to do for our community and everyone's health at this time. So we are really grateful and very fortunate again to be able to move our workforce online and remote with very with great ease. Having soft phones has also been something else that's really helped us. We don't have landlines, which is important because we receive hundreds or thousands of phone calls a day from consumers and businesses. So that's another way we've been able to be nimble, but we're learning best practices from other companies and even some nonprofits that already are remote workers. And we're always looking to improve. And also we're trying to be sensitive to the fact that while we're very fortunate, there's so many of our businesses that can't operate remotely. They rely on being open to the public or even going into consumers' homes as their lifeblood. So figuring out how we can provide them resources at this time, send customers their way, and continue to help them with their cash flow. But yeah, that's kind of how we're doing it at BBB, is working remotely and doing a lot over Google Hangouts and Zoom and Skype.
Yeah, I didn't realize how large the team was for Pacific Southwest. Thomas, with Local First Arizona, you obviously serve many, but you are a small and mighty team. How have you guys transitioned?
Swiftly. We transitioned as quickly as we could so that we could respond faster. We didn't want to get caught up in maybe being in the office, maybe being at home. And so we actually, as soon as we felt that this was serious, which was, the days are blending together now, so I don't even know when that was. But as soon as that really hit our leadership team, we actually had, for 7 nights in a row, we called together our leadership team across the state to have nightly calls every night at 8. And we talked for anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour about what was happening each day, to make as many decisions as needed to be made in order to get things into place. So after that final call, we had made the call to transition. And so we spent about half a day making sure people were set up in their homes, had Wi-Fi connections, had desks set up if they needed them. And we also took care of made sure their families were taken care of. Do you guys have the grocery support you need? All of those things, because we wouldn't have been able to respond if we were mentally, emotionally, psychologically unsettled. So that was, I think, a critical piece from an organization perspective that was important. And as I look back, I'm just so grateful that we did, because we wouldn't have been able to respond as efficiently as we have been without those pieces in place immediately. So.
Yeah, love it. Thomas, let's hear from you from a local first perspective. What resources do you have available for us? What's your encouragement? And what are you hearing out there?
When this started, it was just a firestorm. And it's kind of, the urgency has calmed down a little bit as we've at least let it settle in now a little bit, as far as what the pain is for the businesses, the small businesses. And, that first week was filled with so much uncertainty and worry. And it was a lot of fielding those emotions from the community. Everyone I've talked to that works in the small business community, it was 25, 30, 35 calls a day, nonstop, of businesses that just didn't know what was going to happen and didn't know what was going to do. And you feel for them, right? These aren't just businesses. These are people that have poured their lives into entrepreneurship and battle monsters every day, right? And now they're facing the potential closure of their lives, their business. So it was very emotional, I think, to begin with. And so now that we reacted to that in a way of, what are the immediate things? What are the immediate things in every way that we can be doing to provide critical resources to these businesses that they need now? And our team acted as quickly as they could. We developed resource pages for businesses, and what was important for us is to not recreate things, but to identify what organizations out there that are already doing great things and how can we pull those things together. We were very intentional about not being the be-all, end-all for everything, and really just bringing together all of the resources that exist, making sure our community is aware of it. On the same line, while we were providing those resources up front, we were doing a lot of work on the background to make sure that there would be federal funding made available for businesses in Arizona. So I learned more than I ever thought I was going to learn about an SBA loan in the last 2 weeks. But the one thing that I learned very quickly was that while the White House announced that they were going to be originally taking the executive order to inject however many dollars it was into SBA emergency loan funding, the process is incredibly bureaucratic and really slow. So we got on the phone with the governor's office. We started calling the Small Business Administration, and within 24 hours had 25 businesses share their stories on letterhead that we sent to the governor's office to raise awareness that the small business community was going to get hit hard really fast. And that was critical because the first concern from our perspective for our state officials was health and wellness and human services, and it should have been. But without the advocacy from multiple groups, Better Business Bureau, Local First, Chicanos por la Causa was involved, raising awareness of this critical issue that we knew was coming, we wouldn't have been prepared for those SBA loans to have been ready for people to start applying for. So we went through the process, made sure everything was submitted right. The governor announced the loans. The governor has to make an official request for the loans to be made available. So when that finally happened, they were made available. The difficult thing was that the site was, they were just bombarded. In Arizona, we only have 3 SBA representatives. So if you could imagine that process opens up and you get thousands and thousands of people on the site at the same time. I mean, on the first day, we were seeing people take 4.5 hours trying to get through it, like clicking a button and it would take you a minute to go to the next page. So it was really frustrating, really difficult. It did not build trust from the government to the small business community in the moment. It was really unfortunate. But since then, we've seen more businesses go through it. We've seen nonprofits go through it. We provided more information about here's what you need to have when you do submit it. And, there's a lot of businesses that I think have come around to see that maybe I won't need it, but maybe I should just apply anyway, just in case. And being that the White House just signed the current bill, we know that for those loans, they are not just going to be debt put onto the business, but any of the dollars used for payroll, utilities, or rent will be forgivable, which is the most critical piece, because in order to save the backbone of the economy, which we all know is our small business community, we can't put them more into debt to save them from a crisis. So that's really exciting. We're happy to hear that. Today, we also launched a grant fund. We're calling it a Small Business Relief Fund through Local First, where we are actually targeting micro businesses that are very small, who may not have an opportunity to have a lifeline of funding immediately from any other source. So any small business with less than 3 employees, prioritizing businesses where their business is their sole source of income. They have children under 18 at home. They are in, these situations. We're encouraging them to apply. They can receive up to $2,500 cash. And we have grant review boards, depending on what area of the state they're in, where they can apply and have people reviewing their applications that are actually in their communities. And so we're launching that today. we're excited. We're going to be taking it week by week. So within 1 week, you can apply and you'll be considered in that pool of applicants that week. And then if you miss that time slot, you can just apply the next week and you'll be reviewed that next week. So businesses can apply at any time. You can only receive funding once. And we're most excited about just getting cash in the hands of businesses as soon as possible. While everything else happening is great, there's lots of different opportunities bubbling up and happening and available, but they're slow. So what we know, like Kimberly said, businesses need cash on hand right now.
Great information. Thank you, Thomas, for sharing all that. For our executive leaders and business owners who are listening and are maybe not as concerned about their businesses because they've got reserves or, things are humming for them, if they can help in any way, what would you say to the executive leader? What do other businesses, what does Local First need in order to support everyone else?
Yeah, so we've got our two biggest opportunities right now is, well, one, we realize that being a membership-based organization, we want to continue providing resources to any small business that needs it in Arizona, and we don't want to turn people away. So we launched a sponsor a business program where any individual or any business, any institution can sponsor a business to get access to our resources, so that anybody reaching out to us and saying, hey, I'm still open, I'm doing to-go options, or hey, I just lost 50% of my revenue. What resources do you have? We don't want to say it's this much to join. We want to say, come on in. What else do you need? So in just a week, we actually had 150 businesses sponsored. So we're able to operate and facilitate the work and help these businesses in this time of need. And then the second would be the loan fund. Anybody can contribute to it. We had a great support through a sponsorship with SRP to launch the fund. And we've just had a tremendous support. The Vice Mayor of Tempe, Lauren Kuby, actually reached out and took all of her remaining campaign dollars in her account and gave to the fund to support some businesses.
Wow.
So we're just seeing a lot of community support in those really cool ways.
Very good. Wow. This is what this is what I believe Arizona stands on, right? That collaborative, we care about you. Let's be conscientious and help when we can. And the other half of this is being willing to ask for the help when we need it. And you've all been speaking to that beautifully. Kimberly did a great job speaking to consumer awareness and what we need to be looking out for. What else could you add from the Better Business Bureau perspective as to what resources do you have available from the business part end of the world?
Absolutely. So first off, Thomas, that's super awesome. I love the micro grant you're calling them. I love that. That's so necessary right now because a lot of the businesses we're talking to are very intimidated or just frankly scared of government funding. We've gotten emails from some of our members that say, I don't want the government in my business. I don't want them seeing my financials. I don't care how bad I need this money. I will do anything it takes to not apply. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, especially with what we've learned in the last 24 hours. Like Thomas mentioned, if you can use it for payroll or to keep your electricity on or to pay your rent and it is forgivable, why not at least apply? Granted, it is very bureaucratic. It is not an easy application by any means, but it gives you another avenue. And for me personally, if I'm thinking of it from a consultative standpoint, I like the more options, the better that you have as a business owner to access capital right now. I like you having more options than fewer options right now. But I think the micro grant is huge because, again, so many of our business members are 10 employees or less. They also may not qualify. That's something a lot of people aren't talking about with the SBA funding. There's a good amount of businesses that are not going to qualify. I would defer to Thomas to talk more about that because he really has become an expert in the last few weeks, and we're super grateful for everything Local First has done to get that from the policy side, making that funding available because I don't think it would have happened as quickly without them working on it. To be very honest, I just don't think it would have come to pass and be made available to Arizona businesses without Local First really pushing for that. So thank you, Thomas, because I know that was a lot of late nights, right?
Little bit.
Yeah, just a wee little.
He's downplaying it.
I'm laughing because I mean, for those of you that don't know, Kimberly and I, we're active on Twitter all the time. And there's a joke going around right now about how 12 p.m. or 4 a.m. is the new 12 p.m.
Right. Holy cow.
Because working from home, everything's just a blur now. And I'm eating dinner at a different time every night. And
Thomas, remind me.
Friday?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Is it Friday?
Well, yeah, quarantine day number what? I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Thomas,
this last week was the longest year of my life. Honestly,
this last week was the longest year of your life. Yeah, and I'm 6 months into that sort of a quote. So I've experienced personal crisis well before COVID-19. And I put out, not on Twitter, but on Facebook not too long ago, like COVID-19's got nothing on me. I've been, rehearsed for tragedy and crisis for a while now. But it really, but what all of you have been saying is being poised to react quickly, to be able to listen, to hear what people have to say, to really listen to their concerns, right? And Thomas, I think, used the word, the emotions that they're experiencing, the fear and the anxiety that comes with it, right? If we can just be that voice of reason for people, again, even if we don't have the answer right now, if we can just give them an opportunity to share their fear and say what's going on in their head, heart, and their body and let them get it out, we've really served people well. Of course, it takes a lot more than that to have a business survive, but that's a great place to start, which is, again, why I included the three of you in this broadcast. Kimberly, what do you think? And our listeners can't see your faces, but we're on video together, but I see you ready to say something.
Yeah, I mean, my mind's got a lot going on in it. My mind is like my laptop, many tabs open all at once.
Right.
It's a little bit of a mess, but honestly, the other thing that I wanted to mention was there's a lot of great resources out there, but I think for business owners who are very anxious right now and who are just trying to survive or make payroll, it's hard for them to access all of these, right? And so that's my job. That's my team's job, is we're vetting through all of these resources that are coming a million miles an hour every day. So one of the things we've started doing at BBB is we started doing a curated daily digest. Perhaps this is something we should have been doing much longer ago, but we've been vetting the top news stories in Southern California and Arizona nationally, and then as well as lots of resources. So one that we saw today, I think was announced this week, is some free ad credit that Google's offering. That's great. A lot of businesses are already working with Google on Google My Business. So take advantage of that, right? So we're trying to push out lots of these different free resources that larger corporations are making available to businesses right now. We want them to take advantage of that. So that's a little way that we're trying to send that information in a more digestible email, because again, people are being inundated with emails right now. We're trying to do that for our members every day. The education piece is huge for us. It always has been, but that's really where my team has been very focused in the last 2 weeks, is on putting a daily webinar on for our business community. And we've had amazing feedback and support from our small business community, from different leaders who are hosting. So every day of the week, we have a different theme. And if you're unable to make it to the daily webinar because the times vary, we record every single one and we put it on bbb.org. So you're able to go back and watch it and listen to it again, as well as on our YouTube. But on Mondays, we're doing Monday Motivation. A lot of the Monday speakers we have upcoming are around financial topics. This upcoming Monday, we have a speaker from Coastal Payroll who's talking about the overview of the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. On Tuesdays, we're doing Turnaround Tuesdays, because we understand that this looks like we're entering into a recession, right? And we want businesses to be able to turn around as quickly as possible. So we have Bright Guest, which is a local company here in Arizona, a tech company. They're going to be speaking about the importance of using text messaging to connect with your clients or consumers during this time. On Wednesdays, we have Wellness Wednesdays. So we had an amazing webinar this past week on emotional health and well-being while working from home. And next week we have Brian Stinson from the Peak Fleet, who I wish Anne was still on, because I know that's one of the Tempe Chamber's very strong supporters.
Yes.
And Brian will be leading a workshop on values and the future of work, because the future of work is coming at everyone a lot faster now than we thought. Automation being very important, and also this whole new work from home frontier. And then on Thursdays, we're doing a think tank every Thursday with a different business leader speaking. So next week, we have a topic of maintaining productivity for you and your team. And then Fridays, every Friday, the webinar BBB is hosting will be Financial Fridays. Next Friday, we have someone speaking about payroll taxes, but also access to capital is going to be huge during this time. So we have a few banks that will be speaking in April on Fridays. So that's really important. And I think that's a great contribution we can make to our community right now. We're also doing the best we can to promote every other organization's webinars because there's some great resources that are going live. And then even nationally, there's a lot of great free resources that are being made available that in the past would have cost you thousands of dollars. I saw just today that the Conscious Capitalism National Conference is now free to register. That was hosted here in Arizona last year, and I know that the registration was well over $1,000. Mm-hmm. So it's a great time. If you have to look at the silver lining of everything that's going on right now, it is a great time to take advantage of professional development. It's a great time to do some learning and development for your business. And honestly, we know with entrepreneurs, they're very scrappy and gritty to begin with. That's the reason so many business owners start and found their business in the first place. So I'm nothing short of inspired just looking at all of our different businesses in the last few weeks and how nimbly and quickly some of them are iterating. It's like they're not missing a beat. It's amazing. And there's so many examples I could give you, but one of them that I love that I just saw right before we jumped on this call was Allison. She's the owner of Tea Pressa. They have that beautiful boutique and tea store. She's been on Shark Tank. She's wonderful. She has mentored other food entrepreneurs when I used to work at ASU. I thought this was brilliant, but because, the service industry is being hit so, especially restaurants and cafes, she has this takeout model where they're selling your tea or your coffee for the whole week. You can buy it and you can go pick it up in one of their stores and they'll give you the tea. It's already brewed. They give you the flavoring. They even give you the garnish. They'll give you their cups and their straws. So you can kind of put it together at your house. And they're really incorporating their social media into that. And I was like, that's brilliant. There's so many really innovative ways that our business owners here in the Valley are taking on this crisis head on because it's like full survival mode right now, whatever it takes. So we're seeing that as well in the service industry because so many of the folks that run those types of businesses are deemed essential right now. And we know that next week it's going to be getting into the 90s here and people are going to be turning their ACs on for the first time and some of them might not be working. So we're trying to work with some of our HVAC companies to help them prepare and build trust with the consumers because that's pretty much the last thing you want right now is someone coming into your house, right? We actually had to do it at our condo earlier this week because we were anticipating the hot weather. And it is a little nerve-wracking because that person has just come from several other houses. So we have some best practices that some of our industry experts are sharing. It's things that, again, you look back and you say, maybe we should have been doing this all along. Hopefully we will persist with these hygiene habits after this crisis is over, wearing booties when you're walking into someone's house, the frequent hand washing, increased use of gloves, things like that. When you're in someone's personal space, it's a best practice anyways, but now it's kind of a survival tactic for some of our businesses.
Well, and it goes back to what you said earlier when you were introducing the Better Business Bureau, that trusted business. That's really everything that Better Business Bureau has been founded on. And so if our listeners are scratching their head and wondering who they ought to be working with during this kind of time, any of these organizations that we have on this podcast today are folks that you can reach out to and say, hey, I need that AC person, or I need the in-home nurse or whatever it is, or what restaurant can I trust when it comes to takeout, that sort of thing. That's why, obviously your organizations even exist, and in particular, the Better Business Bureau. So right now, if a listener is thinking that maybe it's not time right now to join the Better Business Bureau, what would you say to them and how could they get started, Kimberly?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like what Thomas was saying. We don't want there to be any barrier to entry right now. So please reach out to us. It's more important than ever right now, frankly, because what BBB has always offered and what we continue to offer is we're a neutral party that will vet your business. And it's a sign of trust for consumers, right? When you have that seal from the Better Business Bureau, it shows that you are upholding all of our standards of trust, which you can read more about on our website. If you've been to our building in person, you see those of trust projected on the floor and the entryway, but it's about valuing consumers' privacy, advertising honestly, which is so important right now. And there's several other standards of trust we have. But if you're interested, of course, you can always go to bbb.org. And at the end, I'm sure I can give my personal contact information. But we don't want finances right now to be an obstacle. We want our resources, especially this educational content we're putting out, to be openly and freely accessible to everyone. But again, we have, similar to Thomas, we have seen many applications coming through this week, which is a surprise for businesses that want to join. I would say a lot of them are in the service industry. So I think they're thinking about the warm weather coming up. How now can I set myself and my business apart from other businesses in the Valley? And so that's really, that's another benefit. One of many benefits of BBB is just that vetting process that we do. It can build trust between you and your potential customers. So please do reach out to us, bbb.org. And it's pretty simple online.
Yeah. Kimberly, go ahead and give us, it's bbb.org. No, for Arizona
Yes.
specific.
Yeah, it's bbb.org, and it will geolocate you to the city that you're in, actually. And so you can apply there. You can also see our events. That's where you'll be able to see and register for all of our webinars. So there's a button for a drop down for events. At the top of our page right now, we have a banner, and similar to Ann and Thomas, we have built out a microsite for the coronavirus pandemic. There are resources specifically geared towards consumers, but then we have a whole separate page just for business owners during this time. And it's all about building trust in trying times for the business owner. And this is where we're linking to lots of the government, federal aid, and as well as local information and resources that are being made available. So I always just encourage people to go to bbb.org because it's very simple to remember, and you can find anything you're looking for there, be it a business resource or a consumer resource.
Wonderful. Okay. Oh my gosh, such great information. Thomas, one of the things I love about getting to know you best, both at the Arizona Good Business Summit, but also here at the studio when you come and do your podcast, is your ability to storytell, just like Kimberly did with this example with the tea shop. How are you seeing some of your members pivot? Any stories that you can share that you're just like, yes, man, they've got it, and we all need to be doing that? And then, of course, if you would, like Ann and Kimberly both had an opportunity to do, share with us and take all the time you need to let us know where we can plug into Local First right now, since it's not a happy hour at a local restaurant or a summit, but I know you're out there on the internet serving us. So what can you tell us?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, if I could just pick a few. So one of the cooler ones, and Karen, you probably heard this yesterday when we were talking. So I've been talking to a lot of people about how it's important for businesses to really own the space of comfort right now, because what we're dealing with is not normal. It's making everyone very on edge, very uncomfortable. But in that, we're seeing a lot of interesting things like happening in the world. Like you look at satellites of air ozone, all that stuff, and the earth is like taking a breath right now, right? Dolphins are swimming in the canals of Italy. Like it gives you chills kind of thinking about, wow, if we actually, even just one day a month quarantined, right? How much that does for the environment. So, we're seeing all these natural things happen from this unfortunate current events. And people need to feel comfort. 2 weeks ago when this started going a little crazy, all we would see on social media was empty shelves of grocery stores and people filling their carts to the brim. And it was all it was on social media we were seeing. And what I was telling businesses at the time is I was like, do not talk about the grocery store. Like, do not share stories about the grocery store. Share stories of yourself and your business. Literally post a photo of the day you got the keys to open up your store. Remind people that while they can't come to you, you will come to them. And now what that's turned into is I've seen people do really creative things to carry that forward. So to Kimberly's point, that's such a great example. There's a business in Chandler. They're called the Local or something like that, local something. I've actually never been there before, but they shared online. They made a curbside pickup, and they made it like it was a lemonade stand. And you can order alcoholic drinks to go right now because the Series 12 licenses were expanded to sell alcohol in containers to go. So it's almost like, it's like, that childhood memory of having your own lemonade stand and the small business in my downtown is doing something cool. So,
and a handwritten sign, they were saying.
Yeah, there was a handwritten sign and everything.
I keep
and like
seeing
a
the
little
Snoopy characters. Yeah, I see Linus and Snoopy and Lucy out there. Yeah,
right. Exactly. So that that reminder, that warmth, that honesty, that transparency, as those things are always important, the comfort that you can bring people right now is what's in your control, right? There's so much that's out of your control. And, doing something like that isn't going to save your business, but it is something you can do to remind the community that you're here, to connect with people, to use what you have to at least make some cash coming in, right? And so I'm having these conversations, and I think that businesses are getting to a place, some businesses are getting to a place where they are getting to a space of being able to do that. But there's businesses that have just made the decision to close right now, that it's not worth staying open. And I think above all, it's most important for us to not shame any of the businesses for their decisions. They're reacting to a situation we never could have guessed or foreseen come. And we have to do everything that we can to help them while they're making the decisions they're making. So, I've seen record stores host online DJ sessions and share Spotify playlists, like coronavirus playlists and things. I've seen dance studios do daily dance sessions on Zoom and Google Hangouts. So people are getting creative. Again, it's doing that isn't saving their business for the long term, but it's something that they can do. And I applaud those that are thinking outside of the box and being the entrepreneurs that we know they are to do that. I think the most moving one that I saw recently was the owner of Film Bar 2 weeks ago now. He released actually all of their movies to be viewed online. And he set up lifetime movie memberships on his website. So you could pay, I think it was like $250 or something, and purchase it. And then you get movies for life when they open back up. So he kept it really positive. And then you could also he had different packages and things. And he just shared a photo of himself, and the community poured out support for him. And he got so much support that now what he's doing is he's mentoring and helping other small businesses around him to think creatively too. So I think it was 3TV or something like that, Channel 3, just did some coverage on him that told the story about, the community gave back to me. Now it's my turn to give back to others. So those types of things are really, really cool to see in such challenging times. Times of crisis really show what you've got in you. So we're seeing a lot from the local businesses out there. So
and Thomas, just to jump in, I think one of the positives, again, the silver lining of all of this is some of our local businesses and some of our, I would say, more mid-sized businesses, they are seeing a demand that's almost overwhelming them right now. And again, this isn't everyone, but it gives me some hope in this time, right? So 2 examples, Changing Hands, which I know Thomas and I love and follow and support all the time. They iterated very quickly, and they have a bigger staff, right? But they were able to do these mail your own book care package in a box. And I ordered one last weekend for my brother-in-law's birthday to get shipped to California. I thought that was brilliant. You can have them pick the book for you. You can pick what you want. They'll put in little items. Thought that was super smart. And then I'm part of the CSA, the Community Supported Agriculture for Maya's Farm. And they did a collaboration with Ollie Vaughn's, which is a deli on 16th Street in McDowell. and it's a no-touch grocery pickup. And so the demand there was so high that all Yvonne's actually closed for takeout because they need to be able to bake the grocery items for the Friday morning pickup. And Maya's Farm sold out of their CSA. So when I got my produce this morning, I see that they're even putting in produce from some other local farms, which they don't normally do to supplement. So I think that brings me a lot of hope. To Thomas's point, we see some really cool innovations. And the other thing I wanted to highlight that Thomas mentioned was not to shame some of these businesses, because not all of them have the bandwidth, the staff, or the inventory to do that during this time. We have some businesses too that the owners themselves are immunocompromised, and we know they're just shut down for the time being. And that's their decision. And we need to support that too and understand that it's their business and their life, and they need to run it however it works best for them.
Yeah, love it. Thomas, before I kick it back to you with one last opportunity to tell us how to utilize Local First resources right now, I wanted to just highlight for our listeners, if as you're listening, you're hearing these stories, what my hope is that you are more committed than ever to a healthy groupthink, right? Groupthink is a real thing. How can we elevate and support each other with this collective consciousness around health and well-being and comfort? How can we collaborate differently? How can we get creative? We're here. We have to embrace change because it's happening. There's a lot of uncertainties. But if you are spending time in a fixed mindset and concerned or worried, and not giving yourself an opportunity to break out of that box, start spending time with people who can support you in that healthy mindset. And that's really what these organizations are doing. Listen, come to these organizations, spend time with them, reach out, ask questions, listen to the stories about the business owners who are being positive, even if it means their business isn't going to thrive during these times. It's all around the way that we're thinking and showing up. So I love that you've all shared as much as you have today. Thomas, with just a couple minutes left, but again, take your time. Tell us, again, Local First, how can we get in touch? It's now a time to become a member more than ever, as I've said about each of your organizations. What can you tell us? And then be sure to let us know where to find you.
Yeah, any local business in Arizona, reach out. We're at localfirstaz.com and all over social. We have lots of opportunities for you right now, everything from resources you're going to need right now, connecting you to local banks if you need one, giving you information about what financial assistance or support is available to you, and connecting you to other partners as well. If you are not in a financial situation where you can afford to join Local First, just reach out to us. We've got support to help you. If you are a micro business looking to get access to cash right now and need it for your family, our Small Business Relief Fund just opened that you can apply for. And then if you're just a business out there, maybe you're business services or you're interested in engaging digitally with other people in the community, every Thursday at noon, I'm hosting a live video chat with any local business in Arizona that wants to participate, with Ty Largo, who's a marketing guru in town. He owns Awe Collective. He's overseen a lot of really great brands. And we're just very casually laid back, checking in every Thursday with everybody. So feel free to join. You can find those on a resources page on our website. And we're just here for you. So reach out, let us know what you need.
Love it. Kimberly, anything that you want to say that you hadn't thought to say previously? We're getting ready to close the segment, but I want to give you a last opportunity.
I think I would love to talk more because there's just so many great business stories that we could spend hours just talking about. There's so many that are coming to mind right now, folks in non-traditional types of businesses that are really innovating in order to survive right now. But the one thing that does come to mind that we didn't have the time to talk about is one of our very vulnerable populations during this time is our immigrant and Spanish only community. So one of the things that BBB is working to do is put on a business summit towards the end of April. We're in the planning processes of that right now. So if there's any organizations that would like to collaborate with us, we're very open, working with the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, who's one of our close partners, and it will all be virtual because we assume we'll be in this position for several more weeks, if not months. But we want to make sure that we're getting all of this information out there in English and in Spanish. So I have two colleagues on my team who are trying to translate as many of these resources into Spanish for our website as possible right now. And then being able to offer a half-day summit online for all of our Spanish-speaking business owners is really critical at this time, as well as, again, on the consumer side, how can we best disseminate this information to people who speak English and Spanish, be you a consumer or a business owner, because again, this could probably be a whole separate topic, but when folks are ready to start accessing that government money, there's tons of questions about who and how you get that check in the mail. We want to just be very inclusive during this time and make sure that we're providing resources in English and Spanish to businesses and consumers. So that is something to just be on the lookout for. And once we have the date locked in for that summit, we will put that on bbb.org under our events page.
Good. Yeah, you made me think of something that I'd said before Anne had to leave us, and that is an extension to let you know, Kimberly, too, that if you've got any other announcements or stories that you want to share with some of your members or your teammates, Thomas knows this, of course, because he works with us frequently. Please reach out and let me know, and we'll get you a spot and do something like this again to within this time frame, and certainly after as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. And also, I just have to say, Karen, it is so awesome to just be here with you and with Thomas right now, to see your face. You're so resilient. We love you so much in this community. And you could teach the master class right now on life. So maybe we need to do that as the next.
Yes. Well, let's get through. Yeah. I have been thinking about that. People have been asking me, like, listen, I'm really having a hard time. I'm freaking out. I'm anxious. I'm stressed. What is it that you do to be as resilient as you are? So we're in the works with something like that for those who might be interested, business owners and consumers alike, because if there's one thing I've known about myself, it's how to transition and pivot quickly. And each of you have spoken to that. And that doesn't come naturally for everybody. It certainly didn't come naturally for me. This is years and years of practice and teaching. So thank you for pointing that out. And I so loved spending the afternoon with all three of you. And I know that our listeners have greatly benefited from the wisdom, the resources, and the support, and most importantly, the hope and comfort that you've offered. So thanks again for being here. You've been listening to Phoenix Business RadioX, broadcasting live from within the Mac 6 Conscious Workspace studio. Some media leans left, some lean right, and we lean business. Until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki. Thanks for listening.